The first trooper to report it was Davidson. On the overnight shift 3 weeks into January, he'd been patrolling Route 29 North during a snowstorm when his headlights caught something in the breakdown lane near mile marker 47, a German Shepherd, sitting perfectly still, facing oncoming traffic. Davidson slowed. The dog didn't move, just sat there in the swirling snow, breath visible in the freezing air, dark eyes reflecting red and blue. "Dispatch, I've got a dog on the highway." Northbound 29 at marker 47, appears uninjured but won't move. Attempting to secure, he pulled onto the shoulder, flashes painting the snow orange. The moment he opened his door, the dog stood, turned, and vanished into the tree line. Davidson found prints leading into deep woods, but the storm was intensifying. He returned to his cruiser and logged the incident. Possible stray. No collar visible. Further investigation required. The next night, Officer Chen saw the same dog. Same location. Same behavior. The night after that, it was Trooper Reeves. By the end of the week, the German Shepherd had become a fixture in the shift reports. Always between 9 p.m. and 2 a.m. Always mile marker 47. Always sitting in that exact spot, forcing drivers to brake, to swerve slightly, to slow down on a stretch of highway that was otherwise straight and unremarkable. The pattern was unmistakable. Every report described the same scene, a large, dark-coated shepherd materializing from the storm like a ghost, positioning himself where headlights would catch him, where drivers had no choice but to notice. Some honked, some cursed, all slowed down, and the moment anyone stopped to investigate, the dog disappeared into the woods behind the guardrail, leaving only tracks that vanished into darkness. "We need to do something about this dog before someone gets killed," the captain said during morning briefing. "It's a liability. Someone's going to swerve into oncoming traffic, trying to avoid hitting it." Sarah Martinez had been listening to the reports all week, and something about them bothered her. She was a 10-year veteran of the state police, and she'd seen plenty of strays, plenty of animals wandering near highways. But this was different. This was purposeful. "Has anyone actually tried to follow it?" she asked. "Follow it where?" Reeves said. "Into the woods in a blizzard? It disappears every time. We've got better things to do than chase some stray through the forest at midnight." "Exactly every time," Sarah said. "Same spot, same behavior, same exit route. That's not random. That's not how lost animals behave." The captain sighed, rubbing his temples. "Martinez, if you want to play animal detective on your shift, be my guest. But that dog's becoming a hazard. If we can't relocate it, we'll have to call animal control for removal." That settled it for Sarah. Something was happening at mile marker 47, and that dog was trying to tell them what it was. She'd grown up with working dogs. Her father had bred German Shepherds for police and search and rescue work. She knew their intelligence, their problem-solving ability, their absolute unwillingness to give up once they'd committed to a task. This dog had committed to something, and she needed to know what. That night, Sarah took the northern route. Her partner, rookie trooper James Keller, was quiet in the passenger seat, watching the snow accumulate on the windshield faster than the wipers could clear it. The storm was getting worse, visibility down to maybe 30 feet, wind gusts rocking the cruiser. "You really think there's something to this?" he asked. "I think a German Shepherd doesn't establish a territorial pattern on a highway for no reason," Sarah said. "They're working dogs, intelligent, they don't do random. Maybe it's guarding something." "On a highway?" Sarah glanced at him. "Actually, that's exactly what I think. Question is, what?" They rounded the bend, approaching mile marker 47. Sarah's headlights swept across the shoulder, cutting through the swirling white. There he was. The dog sat motionless in the snow, a dark silhouette against white. Even from a distance, Sarah could see the proud carriage of his head, the alert positioning of his ears. This wasn't a confused, frightened animal. This was a dog on duty. Sarah slowed the cruiser to a crawl, pulling onto the shoulder about 30 feet back. She killed the headlights, leaving only the flashes pulsing red and blue across the winter landscape. "What are you doing?" James asked. I want to see what he does when we're not chasing him. Just watch." They waited. The dog remained still, watching the occasional car pass through the storm. Each vehicle slowed when they saw him. Some honked, some swerved wide, all reduced speed through that section. The German shepherd tracked each one with his eyes, but didn't move from his post. He simply sat, patient and watchful, ensuring every driver noticed him, ensuring every driver slowed down. "He's controlling traffic," Sarah whispered. "What?" "Look, every car slows down right here. He's forcing them to brake, to pay attention to this exact spot. Why would a dog? I don't know. But he's doing it deliberately. He's positioned himself where the headlights hit at maximum visibility. He's not trying to cross the road. He's not begging for food. He's making drivers slow down at mile marker 47. And he's been doing it every night for a week." They sat in silence for 20 minutes. The dog never left his post, never wavered. Snow accumulated on his back, turning his dark coat white. But he didn't shake it off. He simply maintained his vigil, amber eyes reflecting each passing headlight. Finally, a semi-truck approached, and the driver laid on the air horn, a long, angry blast that echoed through the storm. The German shepherd stood calmly, waited for the truck to slow and pass, then turned and looked directly at Sarah's cruiser. His gaze held hers for a long moment, and Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. "Follow me," those eyes said. "I've been waiting for someone to follow me." Then he turned and trotted into the woods. "Now," Sarah said, grabbing her flashlight and radio. "We follow. Stay close and watch your footing." The snow was knee-deep off the shoulder. Sarah and James pushed through it, fighting for each step, following the clear trail of paw prints into the tree line. The temperature dropped immediately. Once they left the open road, the forest canopy blocked the wind but trapped the cold. Sarah's breath came in white clouds, her flashlight beam cutting through darkness and falling snow. "He's been this way multiple times," James said, pointing to the packed-down snow beneath the fresh layer. The path was well-traveled, compressed by repeated journeys. "Every night," Sarah said. "This is his route. Highway to wherever we're going." They followed for 10 minutes, fighting through underbrush and around fallen trees. The wind screamed through the branches overhead, dumping heaps of accumulated snow on them as they passed. Sarah's radio crackled with static but couldn't maintain a signal through the forest. They were on their own. James stopped suddenly. "Sarah." His flashlight beam had found something ahead, a break in the trees, a dark shape too angular to be natural, too still to be alive. They approached slowly, and Sarah's heart began to pound. It was a car, a sedan, older model, its front end accordioned against a thick oak tree. The vehicle had left the highway and traveled maybe 40 yards into the woods before impact, coming to rest in a small, natural depression that made it completely invisible from the road. Snow had buried it almost entirely, only the roof was visible above the white surface. And even that would have been easy to miss if you didn't know exactly where to look. "Jesus," James breathed. "How long has this been here?" Sarah was already moving forward, brushing snow from the driver's side window with frantic sweeps of her gloved hand. Her flashlight beam pierced the frost-covered glass, and what she saw made her stomach drop. Inside, bundled in blankets and a winter coat, was an elderly man. His eyes were closed, skin pale as the snow around them, lips tinged blue. He wasn't moving. "We've got a victim," Sarah shouted, yanking at the door handle. It was frozen shut, the metal refusing to budge. "James, call it in. Get EMS out here now." "I can't get a signal." James held up his radio, showing only static. "Then run back to the cruiser, go!" "Full emergency response, fire, rescue, ambulance." "Move." James crashed back through the forest. Sarah pounded on the window with the side of her fist. Sir, can you hear me?" Nothing, no response. She struck the glass harder, panic rising in her chest. How long had he been here? Days, a week? The same week the dog had been appearing on the highway? Then the man's eyes fluttered open. Sarah nearly sobbed with relief. He looked at her with an expression of such profound gratitude, such desperate hope, that she felt tears freeze on her cheeks. His lips moved, forming words she couldn't hear through the glass. She struck the window with the base of her flashlight, trying to break it. but the old safety glass just spiderwebbed without shattering. She ran around to the passenger side. The door was crumpled against the tree, completely immovable. The back doors were frozen shut, sealed by ice. "Hold on," she shouted, running back to where he could see her face. "Help is coming. Just hold on." That's when she heard it, a soft whine behind her. Sarah turned. The German shepherd stood at the edge of the clearing, snow accumulating on his dark fur. He watched her for a moment, and she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the ice crusted on his muzzle and paws. Then he walked calmly to the car and sat beside the driver's door, in the exact same position he'd been sitting on the highway, waiting, watching, guarding. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered, understanding crashing over her like a wave. "You've been trying to tell us. Every night, you've been going to the highway and forcing people to slow down right near this spot, hoping someone would notice, hoping someone would wonder why, hoping someone would finally follow you here." The dog's tail moved once, a single deliberate sweep through the snow. "Yes, finally, you understand." Sarah knelt in front of him, close enough to see the ice crystals clinging to his fur, the raw patches on his paws from repeated journeys through frozen terrain. How long have you been doing this? How long has he been trapped here?" The German shepherd turned his head toward the car, then back toward the direction of the highway. Then to Sarah, the message was heartbreakingly clear. Every night since the crash, staying with him during the day, running to the highway after dark, trying to make someone notice this spot, trying to slow them down so they'd be alert, so they'd see something was wrong, trying to make someone follow me. "You brilliant boy," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "You incredible, stubborn, brilliant dog." She reached out slowly. The dog let her touch his head, leaning slightly into her palm. His fur was frozen solid in places, packed with ice and snow. He was trembling, not from fear, but from exhaustion and hypothermia. How many miles had he run? How many nights had he made this journey, refusing to give up? Sarah pulled off her coat and wrapped it around him. "You saved him. You hear me? Whatever happens, you saved him. You did everything right." "I had blankets in the back," Robert told Sarah from his hospital bed, oxygen tube in his nose, but eyes clear and alert. "I always keep emergency supplies, water, granola bars, blankets, a first aid kit. My wife used to tease me about it. Called me paranoid." His voice caught. "I rationed everything. Half a bottle of water a day, one granola bar, but I knew I was in trouble. No one saw me leave the road. The snow covered my tracks within an hour. I was invisible. Max was thrown clear during the crash. The back window shattered on impact. He went through it. I saw him land in the snow and I thought he was dead. But then he got up, shook himself off, and came to my window." Robert smiled, but fresh tears rolled down his face. "He stayed with me that whole first day and night, curled up against the driver's door, sharing his body heat. I could feel him through the metal and glass. It helped. God, it helped so much." Sarah pulled her chair closer. When did he start going to the highway? The second night. Around 9 o'clock, he suddenly got up and left. Just trotted off into the woods. I thought he was abandoning me, thought he was going to find food or shelter. I couldn't blame him. But then, around dawn, he came back, exhausted, covered in ice. He slept all day pressed against the car, and then at 9 that night he left again. He established a routine, Sarah said softly. Every night, same time. He'd leave at 9, come back around dawn. I didn't understand what he was doing until the third day. I was fading in and out of consciousness by then, but I remember thinking, he's trying to get help. He's going somewhere every night and he keeps coming back. He hasn't given up on me. Robert's daughter appeared in the doorway then, her face red from crying. Dad! She rushed to his bedside, and Sarah quietly stepped out to give them privacy. In the hallway, she found James talking with the veterinarian who'd examined Max. Frostbite on all 4 paws, the vet was saying. Significant weight loss. Probably dropped 8 to 10 pounds this week. Dehydration, exposure, exhaustion. But he's stable. Tough dog. Very tough. Can I see him? Sarah asked. The vet led her to a recovery room where Max lay on a padded table, his paws bandaged, an IV line running into his front leg. He lifted his head when Sarah entered, tail thumping weakly against the table. Hey, hero, Sarah said, stroking his head gently. You did it. He's going to be okay because of you. Max's eyes closed, and for the first time in a week, his body fully relaxed. The mission was complete. His person was safe. He could finally rest. Sarah stayed with him until visiting hours ended, then returned the next morning. And the morning after that. Each time, Max greeted her with a little more energy, a little more of the brightness returning to his eyes. On the third day, Robert was well enough for a longer conversation. Sarah found him sitting up in bed, his daughter beside him. They're releasing me tomorrow, he said. Going to stay with my daughter for a while, then probably into an assisted living facility. The doctors don't think I should live alone anymore after this. That's probably wise, Sarah said. The problem is, Robert's voice faltered, the facility doesn't allow dogs, and my daughter's apartment building has a no pets policy. I've been making calls, trying to find Max a good home. But he couldn't continue. Sarah had been thinking about this since the rescue. She'd grown up with German shepherds. Her apartment allowed large dogs, and she'd never forgotten the sight of Max sitting in that clearing, half-frozen, refusing to abandon his post. She'd never forget his intelligence, his determination, his absolute refusal to give up. I'll take him, she said. Robert looked up sharply. What? I'll take Max. I have space. I have experience with the breed and... She smiled. I think he and I understand each other pretty well at this point. You would do that? Robert's daughter asked. You'd take him in? On one condition, Sarah said, looking at Robert. I bring him to visit you regularly. He saved your life. You don't just walk away from that kind of bond. Robert's face crumpled, and he reached out to grip Sarah's hand. You would do that? You'd really do that? Every week if you want. He's a hero, Mr. Chen, and heroes deserve happy endings. 3 weeks later, Sarah drove her usual route on Route 29 North. Snow was falling again, lighter this time. Gentle flakes drifting through her headlights like bits of down from a torn pillow. Max sat in the passenger seat, watching the road with those same alert, intelligent eyes but calmer now, content. They passed mile marker 47. Max looked at the spot where he'd spent 5 nights fighting for his person's life, sitting in the freezing wind, forcing strangers to slow down, hoping desperately that one of them would understand. Then he turned to Sarah and met her eyes. His tail wagged twice. Mission complete. Moving forward. Sarah reached over and scratched behind his ears, careful of the spots where frostbite had claimed patches of fur. They were growing back slowly. Good boy, Max. You're a very, very good boy. They drove in comfortable silence for a while, the windshield wipers keeping rhythm, the heater humming. Sarah glanced at Max again and smiled. You know what Robert told me yesterday? She said. Max's ears perked forward. He said when he got you from the shelter 5 years ago, they told him you'd been a police dog, washed out of the K9 program for being too independent. Wouldn't follow commands if you thought there was a better way to solve the problem. Max's tongue lolled out slightly. If a dog could look smug, he managed it. Too independent, Sarah repeated, shaking her head. That independence saved his life? Max, you didn't wait for someone to tell you what to do. You assessed the situation and you acted. You divided your time between keeping Robert warm and going for help. You chose the highest visibility location on the nearest stretch of highway. You established a pattern that would make us pay attention. You did everything a trained search and rescue dog would do, except you did it alone with no backup, in the worst conditions imaginable. She was quiet for a moment, then added softly, "You're exactly the kind of partner I'd want in the field." Max leaned his head against her shoulder briefly, then returned his attention to the road ahead, always vigilant, always watching, but relaxed now, in a way he hadn't been for weeks. The following Sunday, Sarah kept her promise. She drove Max to the assisted living facility where Robert now resided. The staff had made a special exception to their no pets policy for visiting therapy dogs, and Sarah had registered Max as such. Not a lie, really, given what he'd done. Robert was waiting in the common room, his face lighting up the moment Max walked through the door. The dog crossed the room with dignity, tail wagging steadily, and placed his head in Robert's lap. "Hello, old friend," Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. "I've missed you." They sat together for 2 hours, Robert's hand resting on Max's head, occasionally leaning down to whisper something in the dog's ear. Sarah watched from across the room, giving them space, and realized this was what Max had been fighting for. Not just Robert's survival, but this moment, the chance to sit together in warmth and safety, the bond between them intact. When it was time to leave, Robert walked them to the door. "Same time next week?" he asked Sarah hopefully. "Same time next week," she confirmed. "It's on my calendar." Robert knelt down with some difficulty, wrapping his arms around Max's neck. "You take care of her now," he said. "She's good people. She understood what you were trying to tell us." Max licked Robert's face once, gentle and deliberate, then stood calmly beside Sarah. Driving home, Sarah thought about what the captain had said that day in briefing. "We need to do something about this dog before someone gets killed." He'd been right in a way. They'd needed to do something about the dog, but not remove him, not silence him. They'd needed to listen.